Welcome to Neuro where we dive deep into stories, insights, and ideas that matter. I'm your host, Ema, and you're in for a great episode today.
Have you ever met someone your own age who just seems, I don't know, way younger? Or maybe a kid who sounds like they've lived a whole life already?
Oh, absolutely. It happens all the time.
It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? Is age just about the number of candles on your cake?
Well, that's where this idea of mental age comes in. Psychologists have been looking at this for a while now.
Right. Mental age, it's supposed to be about, your cognitive abilities, your emotional maturity, kind of separate from your actual chronological age.
Exactly. Mental age really means how psychologists try to measure it and, what it tells us about ourselves and maybe other people too.
Okay, sounds good. We've got some source material covering the basics, the calculations, the whole discussion around it.
Yep, the foundational stuff.
So let's dive in. This concept, mental age, it started with Alfred Binet, right? What was he actually trying to pin down?
Binet was really focused on understanding someone's cognitive skills and their emotional development level, regardless of how old they actually were.
Okay.
So fundamentally, it's about how well someone takes in new information, gets abstract concepts, remembers things.
So it overlaps with intelligence, but it's broader.
Yeah, broader is a good way to put it. It's not just about being smart in the school sense. It brings in emotional maturity, how you reason through things, your memory capacity. It's more of a whole picture.
A picture of your intellectual functioning, sort of.
Exactly. It's multifaceted.
Okay, that helps clarify.
Yeah.
So why did this idea become so important, especially in fields like psychology and education? What did it offer?
Well, it gave people a tool, really, a way to look at where someone stood intellectually. It helped in understanding their potential development path. And it was useful for comparing cognitive performance across different ages. Is this child developing typically ahead, maybe a bit behind their peers?
Right, benchmarking against developmental milestones.
Precisely. And that had real implications back then, like for school placements or figuring out the best way to teach someone.
Okay, so we get what it's trying to measure. How do you calculate it? There's a formula I saw.
Yeah, the classic one you'll see is mental age, or MA, equals the IQ score divided by 100, then multiplied by the chronological age, CA.
Okay, can you give an example?
Sure. Say you have a 4-year-old, right? And they score 150 on an IQ test. You do 150, 100 times 4.
Which is 1.5 times 4 meant 6.
Exactly. So that 4-year-old has a mental age of 6. Cognitively, they're performing like an average 6-year-old.
That really shows the gap, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And the sources also mention the flip side, how you get the IQ score itself.
Right. The standard IQ formula is often shown as IQ equals mental age divided by chronological age times 100. They're linked. You use one to help find the other, depending on what you're starting with.
Interesting. Now, I also saw something about just subtracting the birth year from the current year. That sounds way too simple.
Huh. Yeah, you're right to be skeptical. That's just calculating how old someone is, their chronological age. It tells you nothing about their mental functioning.
Okay, good. I thought so.
The real assessments, the meaningful ones, involve proper psychological tests, standardized ones, or, increasingly, these detailed quizzes.
Ah, yes, the online quizzes. Some ask you to rate statements about your life, your opinions, and I saw something about neural networks being used. That sounds pretty high-tech for a quiz.
It does, doesn't it? But the idea there, I think, is to try and find more subtle patterns in the answers. A neural network might pick up on correlations that simple scoring misses.
So it's trying for a more layered look at your mindset.
Potentially, yes.
Yeah.
Moving beyond just adding up points to see maybe a deeper pattern in how your views align with different age tendencies.
Okay, so putting it all together, what's the big picture? What does knowing someone's mental age actually tell you?
Fundamentally, it's a benchmark. It expresses someone's mental development in terms of the age at which an average person shows similar cognitive skills.
Compared to their peers?
Compared to peers of different chronological ages, yes. It gives you insight into how they process things, solve problems, handle emotions. It's a window into their intellectual health, maybe even their growth potential.
Right. Now, the question everyone probably asks, what should my mental age be? The sources touched on this idea of an average for adults.
They did, and this is where it gets, well, a bit fuzzy for adults. There was this older idea that the average adult mental age kind of capped out around 16. But newer thinking, looking at different cognitive skills, suggests maybe closer to 13.5. which really just shows that the original mental age concept was built mostly for kids' development.
It doesn't map perfectly onto adults.
Not really. Adult cognition is more complex than just a straight line going up. We adapt, we refine skills. It's not just about hitting new linear milestones.
That makes a lot of sense. Our brains keep changing, just maybe not in that same way. Now, what about this specific mental age quiz by Dr. Alan Thomas Charlie? The sources said it's massive.
It really is. Over 95 million takes since 2013. Available in tons of languages, constantly updated, no sign-up needed. It's clearly popular.
So what's its angle? Is it like an IQ test?
Not really, no. It seems much more focused on self-perception. It's presented as a quick, 5-minute questionnaire to see if your mindset feels older, younger, or about right for your actual age.
So it's looking at how you react to things, your social style.
Seems like it. How you handle everyday stuff, your outlook, relationships. The idea is to help you think about whether you feel like an old soul, maybe, or younger at heart.
So less about strict cognitive measurement, more reflective.
Exactly. It's not claiming the precision of an IQ test. It's more of a fun, maybe insightful way to explore that feeling of psychological age. The fact it has 5 chapters suggests it tries to look at a few different areas of your outlook.
Interesting. Might be something for listeners to check out if they're curious. Now, the sources also talked about the highest mental age and how different abilities change over time. That was fascinating.
Yeah, that really highlights the complexity. Our mental skills don't all peak at once. For instance, how fast we process information. That tends to peak quite young, like late teens, 18 or 19.
And then it starts to decline slightly.
Gradually, yes. But then something like short-term memory might keep improving until you're maybe 25. Same for remembering faces, peaks around then. But then the sources also noted that by around 35, short-term memory might show a more noticeable dip.
So it's a real mix, different timelines for different skills.
Absolutely. And it's key to remember that mental age, traditionally, is about comparing you to your age group. That's how IQ originally worked that ratio.
Right, MA over CA.
So even if your processing speed slows down a bit as you get older, if your reasoning stays strong compared to other people your age, your mental age in that sense might hold steady. An IQ score of, say, 60 is still linked to the cognitive profile of maybe an 8 or 9-year-old, no matter the person's actual birth date.
And understanding this is useful in other contexts too, right? Like neurodevelopmental differences. Autism was mentioned.
Definitely. It helps frame how someone's cognitive profile might differ from age-typical expectations, showing relative strengths and weaknesses.
So even though the average performance on some tests might not increase past the late teens,
Individuals can still develop significantly in terms of emotional maturity, wisdom, other cognitive aspects. So someone could have a mental age feeling much higher than their chronological one, based on that broader mix of cognitive and emotional maturity. It's complex, but still a useful concept for comparing intellectual function against age norms.
Okay. Now, the sources also share a whole bunch of comments from people who'd actually taken these quizzes. And wow, the range of experiences was huge.
It really was. It gives you such a personal look at this. Like, there was a 41-year-old identified as an INFP who felt both really old inside, but also kind of childlike.
Yeah, that contrast. And the 33-year-old who felt more like an old soul after working through some personal stuff.
And how about the person told they acted like a little grandma as a kid? Wondering if that was just them or maybe a reaction to things back then.
That makes you think, doesn't it? Nature versus nurture and how old we feel.
Totally. Then you have the flip side, someone feeling they hadn't changed much deep down since they were young, still curious, still wanting to change the world.
And we heard from people in their 20s feeling like they were 50.
Gravitating towards older friends. Or the 24-year-old whose whole way of being speech, clothes, reactions just screamed older person to others.
It shows it's not just internal feeling, but how you project yourself too.
And how life shapes you.
Yeah.
The 16-year-old taking on adult roles at home, feeling like their mental age shot up to 40 or 50 because of it. That's powerful.
Yeah. And some people saying they tested older during really stressful times in childhood. Like adversity matured them faster psychologically.
It's a compelling idea, isn't it? That tough times might accelerate that sense of maturity. We also heard from a very self-aware 12-year-old who felt their interests put their mental age way higher.
And the feeling of being an observer. Watching peers make what seemed like bad decisions.
Yeah, that feeling of detachment. Or people in their 20s saying, difficult life experiences made them feel decades older mentally.
Yeah,
It really underlines how subjective this is.
it does. There was the 18-year-old feeling like an older soul wanting to help people, and someone in their late 50s whose results actually felt about right for them.
Right. It's not always a mismatch.
Yeah.
And I like the comment from the 13-year-old who tested older, but still loved being childlike sometimes. It's not necessarily all or nothing.
Definitely. So clearly, these quiz results, how people feel about them, it's really personal. It can match up, be way off, change over time.
Exactly. And as some people mentioned, your priorities shift. You have new experiences, and that can absolutely change how you see yourself and maybe how you'd answer those questions. It's dynamic.
Okay, so let's try and wrap this up. We've covered a lot. What are the main takeaways from this deep dive on mental age?
Well, we've seen it started with Binet as this idea of measuring cognitive and emotional maturity separate from just years lived. We talked about the calculations using IQ and chronological age.
And how it's different from chronological age. That's key.
Crucial difference, and also how various quizzes try to get at this more subjectively now. It gives us another way to think about development.
And it's not just raw intelligence, right? It includes emotional stuff, personality aspects.
It's definitely broader than just being smart. It touches on emotional handling, interaction styles.
Yeah.
It's multifaceted.
So maybe a final thought for everyone listening. If you consider your own mental age, how old you feel or function compared to your actual age, how might understanding that difference or lack of difference affect how you see yourself or how you relate to others?
That's a great question. Or thinking about how life experiences seem to shape the mental age perceptions of the people we heard from. What factors do you think are the biggest shapers of our psychological?
Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed today's podcast, don't forget to subscribe and leave a review. Until next time, stay curious and keep listening.